Hello, Joey Contino here, and if you're joining me, it means you either joined me from Twitter or from TikTok, where I said that the Battle of Kherson is going to be the make it or break it battle for Russia. And obviously on TikTok, there's only X amount of time I can really talk about it, so I figured I would put a little video together here on YouTube for you to maybe understand how important this battle is. I know a lot of Western media isn't really talking about this, but we're literally days away until a massive battle will take place in the Kherson region. And it is a significant one. You see, in order to understand why it's significant, let's jump back to before the invasion started. You see, Kherson is such a massive, massive city. It is at the mouth of the Black Sea, and it is where the Dnipro River kind of just leads all the way through, kind of snakes through Ukraine, all the way through Kyiv and a couple other areas. And this is such an important river because it allows Ukraine to do a lot of trade, a lot of business. They can load things in Kyiv or bring things up and down. Well, when Russia invaded on February 24th, Russia had taken this city within X amount of days, essentially cutting off Ukraine from the Black Sea. You know, they were unable to do any kind of trade, any kind of cargo movement up that river because Russia controlled it. And as Ukraine has been fighting back day after day, for about a month now, Russia and Ukraine have been sitting on the banks of that river, the east and west banks. And if you've been following me on TikTok, you would know that over that time, Russia has been doing a lot of threats. They first said that they were going to go ahead and blow up a dam, which actually they accused Ukraine of wanting to do that. And Ukraine had said, no, Russia is, even though the evidence was pointing to it being Russia. And if they had blown up that dam, it would have flooded all of the different villages and Kherson going south, and then releasing the dam water behind in that reservoir, which that water is used for the Zaporizhia power plant. So there's been a lot of back and forth, and everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. While all this was happening, Ukrainian officials have been telling all the residences in the area, you guys need to get out now because things are starting to get really, really rough over here. If they do that dirty bomb, if Russia's dirty bomb goes off, that would mean that obviously you would be in the flood zone and something could happen, or you could be in an area where radioactive activity could be taking place because there is no water to cool down the Zaporizhia power plant. And as of yesterday, the very, very last, I would say, evacuation boat has left, which would either go north up towards Zaporizhia and back towards Kyiv, or down south into the Black Sea, which more than likely probably went north because the Black Sea is kind of dangerous at this time. Prior to this, I would say about last week, satellite images started coming through showing that Russia really starting to dig into the banks because they know that this is an area where they need to hold. Well, why is this area important for any of these countries, whether for Ukraine or Russia? Well, Russia needs to keep this one area if they plan to have some kind of footing. You see, Russia never, I guess, really truly understood the power of the Ukrainian army. They thought they were going to be able to hold on to the southern region for a very long time, including areas like, if we go all the way up to Luhansk and Donetsk, they thought they were going to have no issues over there holding these. Well, Ukrainian forces have been very strong and have been pushing Russia back at crazy rates. Well, where Kherson is in that river, we're kind of split down the middle where Russia's really standing on one side and Ukraine's on the other. If Ukraine's able to reach over and pretty much cut off Russia from that part of Kherson, that would mean that now Russia has no corridor to bring up supplies and things like that. It's pretty much going to stop their southern offensive in any way. So Russia, with its new leader in the sense of its commander for this army, he is now pushing for Russian forces to single-handedly stay in that area and try to hold it, which means Russia is going to do everything possible to knock Ukraine out over in that area, which means we could potentially see those ballistic missiles that they might be purchasing for Iran and a couple other crazy attacks. Just if you've noticed, and maybe we haven't even reported on, is the fact that Russia has been attacking other areas, trying to thin out Ukrainian forces to make that standover in Kherson a little bit easier. But that obviously didn't work, and the Ukrainian forces have definitely built up more on that side. So, just to kind of recap, it's important for Russia to hold on to that area, because if they don't, they won't have any corridor to bring up any weapons and things like that to the other regions that they annexed. But it looks like right now, Ukrainian forces will be shutting down Russia, which is obviously the best news ever, but it's going to be a long battle. And especially as we're going into the winter time and things are starting to get cold and snow will be coming very shortly, it's going to be something where Ukrainian forces are going to have to be fighting a few different battles at the same time. And I mean it by the Russian army and the cold. And one other thing I need to keep reminding you guys is that Russians are not playing by the rule books. I mentioned earlier that a lot of civilians did evacuate. Some of them did not. Well, Russian forces illegally have been dressing up in civilian clothes and have been staying in civilian buildings. They're doing this to kind of have a guerrilla warfare kind of attack on Ukrainians, which is, yes, it's super illegal. It's against all the rules, but Russia hasn't been playing by the rules since the beginning of this war. First of all, just the invasion part of it was the first red flag right there, but since then, there's been so many more, especially you look at Mariupol, where right now it's estimated that 300,000 people are missing or reported dead. So it's crazy to think that this is where we're at this very second. No one really knows what will happen. You know, I showed you guys pictures the other day of those kind of fallback line where Russia could go back to if they are losing at Kherson. But a lot of people are saying this war could go two different ways. It could go where Russia doesn't put up a front and just folds back right away, which is very unlikely, or Russia is going to be bombing this area just night and day, trying to push through. And Ukrainian forces, with the new technology, at least they've been getting from other countries, it's going to be a fight that Ukrainian forces more than likely will win, which once again we're rooting for, but it's one of those things where it's going to be long, there's going to be a massive death toll, and we don't know exactly what Russia will hit. You know, they could be hitting city centers, they could be hitting other cities, they could be unfortunately using dirty bombs, phosphorus bombs, ballistic missiles, they could be shooting up from the Caspian Sea. There's so many different things that Russia would potentially do. One thing I can say is that Russia, as of today, we actually have pictures and evidence that they have moved most of their military ships back into port ever since those attacks, which, keep in mind, Ukrainian forces have yet to actually say that it was them. They moved them back because of those attacks. So that is at least some good news, which is why the grain deal, was funny that Russia said that they were going to, you know, all those things that they had in place to kind of say, we're not going to do it till this happens. They really didn't have a choice. But anyway, the Battle of Kherson. I'm telling you now, for the next week and a half, we're going to see a lot of crazy things take place. But please do go ahead and subscribe, turn on notifications, and give these videos a much needed share, because a lot of people aren't getting this information. Like behind me is Ukrainian news. The only way you're going to find out about this stuff is either through TikTokers like me or Yulia or like Aaron and people like that, or if you understand Ukrainian or if your wife's Ukrainian and can kind of translate everything that takes place. Anyway, I'm Joey. Please stay safe and sound. See you later. Bye.